Have you ever wondered why, even surrounded by darkness, we still seek the light? Not the physical light of the sun that warms the skin, but the light that clears the mind, that organizes inner chaos, that gives form to our shadows. In Greek mythology, that light has a name: Apollo, god of the sun, prophecy, music, and healing. Apollo didn't just illuminate the fields, he illuminated the human heart. Son of Zeus and Leto, Apollo was born amid persecution. Hera, consumed by jealousy, tried to prevent his birth, but his mother found refuge on the island of Delos, where Apollo and his twin sister, Artemis, came into the world. From childhood, Apollo radiated order and beauty. His golden lyre could calm both gods and mortals. His arrows did not only destroy, they also healed, for Apollo was master of medicine and divine arts. At the Oracle of Delphi, his voice echoed as truth itself. But Apollo wasn't just predictability and order. His myth also speaks of the battle against chaos. It was he who faced the serpent Python, the monster that guarded the ancient oracle of Gaia. With his golden bow, Apollo struck true and claimed the temple as his own. This act was more than a victory. It symbolized the triumph of light over darkness, clarity over confusion, harmony over fear. Apollo represents the solar principle within us, not just vital energy, but the consciousness that brings order to life. He is the clarity that arises when we dare to look inward and name our thoughts and emotions. Just as he defeated Python, Apollo reminds us that each of us carries inner serpents, fears, traumas, mental chaos. But the arrow of awareness can pierce through the fog, and only then can we truly think clearly. Thinking positively in Apollo's light is not about ignoring the shadows. It's about seeing them for what they are. It's not about forcing hollow optimism, but finding meaning even in conflict. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Apollo embodies this truth. He doesn't eliminate the shadow, he illuminates it, revealing its shape and nature, so that we can integrate what was once hidden. In mental health, this means recognizing negative thoughts, the inner voices that whisper, "I can't, it will all go wrong." We don't escape them, we observe them under the light of awareness. When we name the shadow, it loses its power. It's like dragging a serpent out of a cave in the dark. It seems vast and terrifying. In the light, we see its true size and boundaries. Positive thinking, in this sense, isn't denying the serpent's existence. It's learning to coexist with it, knowing we also carry Apollo's arrow within us, the power to bring clarity, to bring order, to turn chaos into music. So how do we apply this wisdom? Apollo offers 3 paths. First, music. Art can be medicine. How many times has a song changed the tone of your day? In psychology, this is called emotional regulation, shifting the inner environment through external symbols. Create your own lyre of Apollo. It could be a journal, a playlist, a prayer, or even breathing exercises. Anything that restores rhythm and harmony is inner music. Second, prophecy. Not in the sense of foretelling the future, but of imagining better possibilities. When you feel trapped in negative thinking, ask yourself, what if this failure is actually a lesson? This is the inner oracle, the power to open new horizons. Third, healing. Apollo's medicine reminds us to care for both body and mind. You can't think clearly amid exhaustion, insomnia, or total isolation. Self-care is the soil where clarity grows. Tend to it, and thought itself becomes fertile ground. Apollo teaches that light is not only external, it's born from the way we organize our inner world. To think positively is not to smile by force, but to light a flame of consciousness capable of dispelling the darkness of the mind. Just as Apollo conquered the serpent Python, we too can learn to guide our shadows with the arrow of clarity. Ancient tradition tells that before Apollo built his temple at Delphi, there was a primitive oracle there, guarded by a monstrous creature, the serpent Python, born from the very earth, daughter of Gaia. Python represented chaos, fear, and the collective unconscious that haunted humankind. Her enormous body coiled through caverns, releasing poisonous vapors that drove mortals mad. No one could come near without feeling their mind blur, their body weaken, their hope dissolve. Apollo, still young, dared to face the monster. Armed with his bow and arrows, he descended into Python's lair. There was no clear path, only dense darkness. Each step echoed with the serpent's hiss, a sound that blended threat and temptation, as if the earth itself conspired against him. But Apollo did not retreat. He aimed, released his arrows, one by one. With each shot, a fragment of darkness was pierced. And when the monster finally fell, the toxic smoke lifted, and in its place, Apollo raised the Oracle of Truth. This myth isn't just about a god and a beast, it's about us. Python symbolizes the dark thoughts that live inside every human being, those inner voices that emerge when we are alone. You'll never make it. It's not worth trying. You'll never be enough. These voices are not mere ideas. They infiltrate the body. They speed up your breath, tighten your chest, paralyze decisions. Sometimes they even steal your sleep. Anyone who has faced anxiety or depression knows the venom of Python, that crawling sensation inside, choking every spark of hope. Scrawl, and like the coiled serpent, these thoughts feel endless, repeating again and again. But Apollo teaches a different response. He didn't ignore the monster or flee from it, didn't try to bargain. He faced it head on with his most powerful weapon, clarity. The arrow that pierces the mist represents the act of naming our dark thoughts. In shadow psychology, psychic chaos gains power when it remains unacknowledged. As long as it's unnamed, it rules us from the unconscious. Apollo's myth is an invitation to speak aloud what haunts us. It's not enough to say, I feel bad. We must clarify, I'm afraid of disappointing people. I'm still carrying old guilt. I'm anticipating a failure that hasn't even happened yet. Each time we do this, we shoot an arrow, create space for light. But it isn't easy. Most of us prefer to run. We drown the noise with overwork, social media, shopping, alcohol, toxic relationships, anything to muffle the serpent's hiss. But avoidance is nourishment. The more we run, the stronger Python becomes. It's as if the shadow feeds on our silence. The myth reminds us that positive thinking isn't pasting pretty words over pain. It's facing it with clarity. It's looking at the inner chaos and saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, but you will not rule me. In practical life, this can be trained. 3 simple gestures repeat Apollo's bow and arrow. Breathe in the face of fear. When your heart races, take 3 deep breaths. Each inhalation is an arrow. Each exhalation cuts through the fog. Write what Python says. Take paper and pen and record the exact dark phrases that arise. Writing them down is like pulling the serpent out of the cave. On paper, they lose some of their power. Respond with clarity. Next to each shadowed phrase, write a lucid response. Python whispers, you will fail, right? Yes, I might fail, but I will also learn. I've overcome before. That simple act transforms venom into wisdom. And still, the fight with Python is never just once. Just as the earth can give birth to new monsters, the mind will always generate new fears and doubts. It's not about eliminating the shadow, but learning to face it each time it reappears. Carl Jung said, what we do not face within ourselves, we meet as fate. If we don't recognize our inner serpents, they return as crises, repeated failures, and broken patterns. To face Python is to break cycles. Positive thinking, in this context, is not believing that life will be painless. It's knowing that even amid chaos, we carry within us the clarity to confront it. Apollo doesn't destroy the world's shadow. He shows that each day we can aim our arrows toward it. Victory isn't living without monsters, ... It's remembering that we can always defeat them. After defeating the serpent Python, Apollo built his temple at Delphi at the foot of Mount Parnassus. There arose not just a sacred place, but the spiritual heart of ancient Greece. The Oracle of Delphi became so central that entire cities, before declaring war or signing peace treaties, sent envoys to hear the word of the god of light. Kings, generals, poets, and humble travelers all made the arduous journey to that sanctuary. Upon arriving, they encountered a dense, almost magical atmosphere, incense burning, priests chanting, and at the center, seated on a tripod, the Pythia, Apollo's chosen priestess. She inhaled the vapors that rose from the earth and entered a trance. In her fragmented voice, she uttered cryptic messages, which priests recorded and interpreted. But there was something far more important than any mysterious answer. At the entrance of the temple were inscribed two eternal phrases: "Know thyself, nothing in excess." These words were, in truth, the real oracle. Because what good was it to ask about wars, alliances, or wealth if the seeker did not know themselves? Without self-knowledge, even the most divine answer became useless. The Oracle of Delphi symbolizes our own inner voice. It's not magic. It doesn't predict the future in a literal sense. It's deep consciousness, the intuition that whispers when the world's noise fades. It's that subtle feeling that something isn't right. It's the sudden clarity that arises in the midst of chaos. It's the truth that insists, even when we try to ignore it. How many times have you ignored this oracle? Perhaps you sensed that a relationship was draining your soul, yet you stayed afraid of being alone. Perhaps your body begged for rest, yet you pushed it in the name of productivity. How many times did your inner voice ask for patience, and you answered with haste? That is the human dilemma. We listen more to the noise outside than to the whisper within. We follow the expectations of family, the comparisons with others, the pressure of social media, and in doing so, we silence the compass that Apollo offers us: self-knowledge. In shadow psychology, this inner voice represents the self, the center of the psyche seeking integration. But it's often suppressed by the ego, which fears losing control. That's why we usually only hear this voice in moments of collapse, when everything falls apart and we have no choice but to look inward. But Apollo doesn't ask us to wait for disaster. He invites us to cultivate spaces of listening now. How can we do this in daily life? Spend a few quiet minutes each morning writing freely without censorship, whatever crosses your mind. Take walks without headphones, simply listening to your own thoughts and sensations. Meditate, not to empty the mind, but to see clearly what is present. Ask yourself, what am I truly feeling right now? What is really moving me? Little by little, we begin to distinguish the voice of intuition from the noise of fear, and we start to trust it. The oracle speaks in symbols. It can appear in a recurring dream, a word that repeats in unexpected places, or a coincidence that carries meaning. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the voice of the deep psyche. Just as Delphi's priests interpreted the Pythia's words, we too must learn to interpret the signs that life sends us. But there is one condition: the oracle only responds to honest questions. It doesn't reveal easy shortcuts. If you ask, "How can I be happy?" it may stay silent, a T. But if you dare to ask, "Which part of myself am I afraid to accept?" then the answer comes. Apollo demands sincerity. It's useless to seek external answers if within us we still hide the questions we fear to ask. Listening to this voice can be uncomfortable. It may ask you to leave behind something that feels safe but no longer gives life. It may push you toward changes that require courage. It may confront you with truths you'd rather not see, but it will always lead you toward light. Positive thinking, in this sense, isn't about reciting optimistic phrases. It's the confidence that by knowing yourself, you'll have enough clarity to face any shadow. Even if you can't see the whole path, you'll have light for the next step, and that is the true power of the inner voice. The Oracle of Delphi no longer stands in stone, but it exists within every human being. Every time you stop to truly feel what's inside, you honor Apollo. And every time you follow that clarity, you shape a more conscious destiny. To know yourself is the greatest act of positivity. Because those who know themselves are not carried away by external noise. They don't get lost in illusion. They don't freeze in doubt. They find within the most ancient and timeless truth of all, the truth of who they are. Apollo was not only the god of the sun and prophecy, he was also the lord of music, poetry, and art. According to legend, his golden lyre, a gift from Hermes, had the power to calm storms, halt battles, and restore joy to tormented hearts. When Apollo played, even the wild beasts of the forest approached in silence, as if nature itself bowed before harmony. In Greece, music was never seen merely as entertainment. It was medicine. Pythagoras, a philosopher initiated into Apollonian mysteries, taught that every note contained mathematical proportions capable of influencing the soul. For the ancients, melody could restore balance, correct excesses, and bring mental clarity. That truth remains timeless. Who hasn't felt a song touch something so deep that tears appeared without warning? Who hasn't found comfort in hearing the right song at the right moment? Music is the bridge between the invisible and the tangible. It orders what seemed chaotic and gives form to what once felt meaningless. In shadow psychology, music symbolizes the integration of opposites, low and high notes, silence and sound, tension and resolution, all coexist in the score. So it is with the psyche, shadow and light, joy and pain, hope and fear. Harmony is not born from the absence of contrast, but from their creative coexistence. Apollo teaches that thinking positively does not mean erasing dissonant notes. It means weaving them into a greater melody. But how does that appear in everyday life? Think of life as an orchestra. Each relationship, habit, and emotion is an instrument. Sometimes the violin of joy plays loudly, but the percussion of fear keeps beating. Silence feels uncomfortable, yet it's part of the music, as essential as any note. What makes life bearable is not eliminating the sounds that disturb us, but learning to compose with them. With his lyre, Apollo invites us to seek harmony in 3 dimensions. Inner harmony. Care for the mind and body as one tunes an instrument. Without rest, proper nourishment, and pauses, the mind falls out of tune, and every challenge feels heavier. Self-care is soul tuning, relational harmony. Music exists because one note connects to another. Okay. In the same way, life finds meaning in connection with others. Discord with family, colleagues, or partners often becomes noise that turns into pain. To cultivate conscious relationships is to learn how to play in concert. Spiritual harmony. Music has always been a sacred language. In ancient Greece, hymns were offered to Apollo in healing rituals. Today, spirituality may arise in prayer, art, or quiet moments with nature. It's when we feel our melody aligned with something larger than ourselves. In mental health, music is both metaphor and practice. Listening to uplifting songs regulates mood, helps us through crises, and organizes thought. But music can also mean anything that brings rhythm to life. Writing daily, exercising, maintaining a sleep routine. These are small songs that, when repeated, create stability and meaning. Shadow psychology reminds us there is no harmony without dissonance. Just as a melody without variation would be dull, a life without contrast would be shallow. Accepting sadness, recognizing anger, embracing fear, all are part of the composition. The problem isn't feeling, suppressing emotion until it bursts out as discord. So, positive thinking isn't about denying pain. It's about giving it a place in the music of existence. Sadness can be a minor chord within a greater symphony. And when played in context, even sorrow can sound beautiful. Apollo teaches that life itself can be lived like a score. Each choice is a note, each gesture a measure, and we, though imperfect, can learn to play our own melody with consciousness and grace. To think positively in the light of Apollo is to trust that even silence belongs to the music. It's knowing we don't need perfection to live beautifully. We only need to tune our instrument and play from the heart. Healing doesn't come from eliminating suffering. It begins when we give it a place within the score of the soul. Then, even the shadow finds rhythm, no longer noise, but part of the harmony. Apollo is not only the god of light, music, and prophecy, he is also the guardian of time. In ancient Greece, the movement of the sun was seen as life's original clock. The solar rhythm of Apollo dictated when to plant, when to harvest, when to celebrate, and when to retreat. Without this cadence, human life would collapse into chaos. The Greeks aligned their festivals and rituals with the sun's course. The Pythian Games, held every 4 years in Apollo's honor, reminded humanity that even brilliance must respect intervals of rest. Apollo, then, was not just the god who illuminated. He was the one who taught how to live in rhythm. But modern humans have lost that rhythm. We live in constant battle with time. We rush through processes, demand immediate results, and try to skip stages. We carry guilt tied to the past and anxiety projected into the future. And in that struggle, we rarely inhabit the only place where life truly happens, the present moment. The cost is high. Insomnia steals our nights. Anxiety keeps us from being present. Taint, burnout drains our energy. Life becomes a race against the calendar, always running, never arriving. And it is here that Apollo's solar discipline becomes medicine. The sun never hurries, but it is never late. It fulfills its cycle each day, simply, majestically. No day is wasted. No night lasts forever. That is Apollo's reminder. There is a rhythm that sustains existence, and the more we resist it, the more we suffer. In shadow psychology, anxiety is the refusal to live in the present, the mind projecting itself into futures that don't yet exist. Guilt, on the other hand, is captivity in a past that can't be changed. Both pull us away from the living moment. When we reject our inner timing, it manifests as symptoms: panic, depression, inexplicable anguish. Apollo teaches reconciliation with time. The discipline of light doesn't mean rigidity, it means rhythm. Just as the sun fulfills its path without deviation, we too must learn to live within our own cycles. Life is not linear. It is made of repetitions, beginnings, and endings. In practice, how can we cultivate this discipline? Rituals of beginning and ending. At dawn, give thanks for life. At dusk, acknowledge one thing you learned. Small gestures like these anchor the day and create a sense of order. Respect the body's cycles: sleep, eat, rest, work. When we ignore these rhythms, we pay with chronic fatigue and emotional imbalance. The body is like a solar clock. Push it too far, and it rebels. Set boundaries for worry. Create hours to deal with problems. This prevents anxiety from dominating the entire day. It's like opening and closing a temple, a sacred space for concern, then peace. Presence and action. Do one thing at a time. Wash the dishes, just washing. Walk, just walking. Speak, just speaking. Full presence turns ordinary moments into solar rituals. Time is also a master of healing. Emotional wounds do not close overnight. Just as night does not vanish in a second, the psyche also needs hours, days, even years to mature certain pains. But we demand speed, expecting grief, loss, and frustration to disappear on schedule. Apollo reminds us, every process has its tempo. Rush it, and we lose the lesson. In mental health, making peace with time means accepting that not everything must be solved today. It's allowing the unconscious to work while we live. It's trusting that, Just as the sun always returns after the night, clarity always returns after inner darkness. Positive thinking in Apollo's light isn't about denying pain or pretending that everything will be fine immediately. It's about cultivating patience, believing that no night is eternal, and also remembering that no morning lasts forever, which is why every moment deserves to be lived fully. Apollo invites us to live time as a temple, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. The discipline of light is the art of walking in harmony with life's cycles. And when we do that, we discover that time has never chased us. It was waiting for us to learn how to dance with it. The sun never fails to rise, and each dawn is an opportunity to begin again. Thus, the discipline of time is not imprisonment, but liberation. The reminder that despite the shadows, life always renews itself. We've reached the end of our journey. After walking with Apollo through the myth of the serpent Python, the Oracle of Delphi, the music of the soul, and the discipline of time, one essential question remains: what is the sun that shines within us? In mythology, Apollo is the god of light, but not only the light that warms the fields. K symbolizes inner clarity, the consciousness that illuminates what's hidden, the reason that gives form to chaos. K, and this light is not distant, reserved for the gods. It's a possibility that lives inside each of us. Human life, however, is not made of light alone. We all have shadows, fears, traumas, unspoken desires, and fragilities, okay? And that is precisely where Apollo becomes a teacher. He doesn't ask us to deny the shadow. He asks us to illuminate it. His lyre doesn't silence dissonant notes. It turns them into part of the harmony. His sun doesn't destroy the night. It integrates it into cycles of renewal. In shadow psychology, this is the process of individuation, becoming whole. Said that true light does not come from rejecting darkness, but from confronting it with courage and awareness. The inner sun is exactly that, the flame that doesn't fade, even through the darkest nights. But what does it mean to live with the sun lit? It means not letting yourself be imprisoned by the darkness of negative thoughts. It means not mistaking pain for destiny, nor failure for identity. It means understanding that every crisis can be crossed, every fall can teach, every silence can become fertile. In practice, this inner sun manifests in simple but powerful choices when we choose to respond with clarity instead of anger, when we decide to cultivate hope instead of repeating resentment, when, even tired, we find a reason to be grateful, when we turn a wound into wisdom instead of letting it rot into bitterness. Each conscious act is like a ray of light cutting through the shadow, and little by little, those rays form a sun that nothing can extinguish. But there's something crucial. This sun doesn't shine only for us. Just as the real sun lights everything without choosing where its warmth falls, our inner sun must also expand beyond the boundaries of the self. The meaning of life is not just to brighten our own path, but to warm those who walk beside us. It's in sharing the light that existence gains depth. Apollo teaches that positive thinking is not about painting a hard reality in gold. It's knowing that even in the midst of pain, there is a sun within us that can light the next step. It's accepting that death exists and still giving thanks for the breath of now. It's recognizing that the shadow is real and still choosing to ignite the flame of awareness. The inner sun is the metaphor of meaning. It's not something we receive ready-made, but something we build day by day by integrating our light and our darkness, by choosing clarity over confusion, by choosing presence over chaos. And so, at the end of this journey, Apollo looks at us and asks, what do you do with your light? Does it warm only you, or also those who walk beside you? That is the question that defines the meaning of life. Here we end another passage. Remember, memento mori. We are all travelers through the shadows, and each conscious step is a flame that illuminates eternity.